y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Molly, aka the Bibliophile Blonde. You probably sussed that out, but if you didn't, hi, hello, welcome, guten tag, bonjour. I think that's all I know. Hola. I'm doing the mid-year check-in. So this was a booktube tag. So we're kind of doing a check-in. This video is going up on like July 1st. So it's a little past like halfway of the year, but we are doing a midpoint halfway check-in for everything that I've read so far. Some of my favorites, like most surprising things. So I do have my Storygraph pulled up. So for those who do not know, I use Storygraph as opposed to Goodreads. There's way more data on Storygraph. It shows you like all the different genres that you read. It shows you a bunch of different cool stuff about, even when you do your ratings, you could do like quarter stars. You can label something as DNF. You can label as an ebook or an audiobook or whatever. And it just gives you way more opportunities to like have, like, I think, leave better notes for yourself. You can make a TBR list. You can make a next up list. It's just great. So I am looking off at my thing here. So my 2022 reading goal was 225 books. I think that's because that's what I hit last year in 2021, and that's a lot of books. So I really wasn't looking to like read more or whatever, because it's just one of those things where I was like, yeah, that's probably like however many I can hit in a year. Like, that's a lot. Also, in 2021, I wasn't writing, and I'm writing now, so a lot of my reading time goes to writing. So my goal is the same as last year, which is 225 books. However, I have read 132 books so far in the first 6 months. As of today, this is being recorded on June 29th. I've read 132 books, which is actually 21 books ahead of schedule. So there's a good chance that I will beat 225, which is a win. A couple different reasons for that. I think one, I've had really good luck with some great novellas, so obviously those take less time to read, and I have started to use audiobooks as a way to cut through my physical TBR. My physical TBR is, if you don't get an idea from like what's going on behind me, is insane. So I've been using audiobooks as a way to cut down on that. So I've been finding audiobooks for some of the books that I own physically and listening to those during work as a way to kind of help get through some of these faster. So I think that's a huge part of it as to why I'm like 21 books ahead, but who's to say, you know, who's to say? So I am ahead of my schedule. It's 132 books that I've read so far this year, which is really, really cool. That is 36,005 pages. So literally just read about 36,000 pages, which feels insane. I think especially because with Kindle, you don't like get the page turn as much, you know? So that surprised me. Moods, like my number 2 moods are emotional and adventurous. So like 25% emotional and then like 25% adventurous. So that's fun. And then dark, and then mysterious, and then lighthearted. So I really go back and forth between dark and lighthearted. Like dark and light, I'll put the chart up, but like dark and lighthearted have the same amount, like almost the same amount. So clearly whenever I read one, I then immediately have to go back over and read the other. Love that. And then as far as like paced books, I'm pretty split in between fast and medium paced books. Page numbers, 5% nonfiction, 95% fiction. I don't think that shocks anybody. In terms of genre, far and above romance. I read more romance than anything else. And then my second one is fantasy. And then third one is LGBTQ+, which I think most of those are romances as well. And then some contemporary, and then erotica right after, just like the romance, just ones that are billed as like straight erotica. We love that for her. Most read authors, it's kind of interesting, I haven't really looked at this before. Onley James, which that makes sense. I've like went through her entire catalog a couple months ago. Thea Harrison, if you haven't read the Dragonbound series, it's really great. It's a wonderful hangover for Crescent City. It's a great modern fantasy. Jane Henry, that's another like KU love of mine. Sped through some of her spicy series. And then no one is shocked, Alessa Thorne and Amy Quiver-Landon are both on the list in terms of both read authors, because I devour everything that they do. And in fact, I think all of these people show up like in this tag. So first one is best book that you have read in 2022 in the first half. Far and above that is like Starless Sea. Far and above Starless Sea just is the best book that I've read to date so far. I have like already talked about it in multiple videos, so I will like link those up here wherever, do the YouTube thing, because I have talked about it probably enough. But if you had to ask what my best book was, hands down it was Starless Sea. It just has so much in it, and I feel like it was a book written for readers and writers. Like if you love books, but then maybe even you go a step further and it's like, no, I love reading, I love writing, like stories are my lifeblood kind of people, then I think you will absolutely love Starless Sea. And that's really like who it was written for. You can see like so many tabs, so many underlines. It really just, it was so good. I'm getting a Starless Sea tattoo with a good friend of mine, one of my best friends who made me read the book. I say made, but like she was like, read it, and I was like, done. Didn't take a lot of convincing. We're getting like tattoos for this book, so I have to say, like, if a book inspires you to like turn around and get a tattoo, it's probably the best book that you read for the year. Like this will probably remain my favorite book that I've read for the year, because I'm gonna get a tattoo on it. So anyway, absolutely best book so far, midway point check-in, is Starless Sea. The best sequel that I have read in the first half, definitely Ashes of the Firebird, Amy Quiverlainen, chef's kiss. Cry of the Firebird is one of my favorites. Absolutely like a banger of a contemporary fantasy. It goes into a lot of Finnish and Russian and some Celtic myth as well. So I just think that's so fun because it's really not done a lot. I mean, coming from a bitch who writes Greek mythology, which there's a lot of, I just think that like Finnish and Russian myth, there's just like not enough of it, and it's so good and it's so captivating. I sped through this, I think in almost one sitting. I think the night before I got started and then like fell asleep because it was like, you know, 1 a.m. So it was not the book's fault that I didn't read it in one setting. I think I technically read it in two, but I basically read it in one sitting. So if you haven't read Cry of the Firebird, that is the first one, and then Ashes of the Firebird is the sequel, and then the third one is coming out next March, which is Rise of the Firebird. I always get them confused and that's on ADHD. So it's just one of my favorites. It's so good. I think one of the things that is just, I had a review on it and I called it symphonic, and I was not being dramatic. Maybe I was being a little dramatic, but I believe that because there's so many, like, there's the main plot, but there are side characters and like side plots, if you will, but all of it comes together so it is not overwhelming and everybody's like fully baked. And like I have not written the next great American novel, like, you know, I'm not saying this out of ego, but like as someone who has spent time like drafting outlines and also writes books and writes stories, I can at least say like the ability to do that, to have so many characters and plots and interwoven, sure, that was the easier word, I can say that. To have so many different interwoven characters and plots is really, really hard to do, and she does it really, really well. Okay, moving on swiftly because this book apparently reduces my ability to speak to nothing. Most anticipated in the first half of 2022. Come on, fucking House of Sky and Breath, fucking duh. We all know that the most anticipated book that I could not wait to get my feral little hands on was fucking Sky and Breath, okay? I'm not gonna talk about it anymore. We've talked about it, okay? We've talked about it. Fuck off, that was my most anticipated, and I'm still recovering, and no spoilers, so most anticipated of the first half was Crescent City. Okay, thank you. And then my most surprising read of the first half of 2022 was Heavenly Bodies, which I have also talked about way too much. So I will link my full rant on that video here, on that book here. I will link. Did I start recording this when my meds were wearing off? Like, is that what's happening right now? Okay. When I say that this was my most surprising read of the first half of 2022, nope, that was right. When I say that this was my most surprising read, I don't mean like, I feel like that almost has like a bad connotation. Like, oh, I was surprised. I didn't think, like, it was a surprise because it sounded great. I'd heard great things and I was like, oh, this is probably gonna be like a book that I love. And then I read it and then I went feral for it and I'm obsessed. So it surprised me in the strength of my feelings for just how fucking good this book was. But you can go check out my full rant on that video. And then favorite character that I've read so far in the first half of 2022, absolutely Imogen from Alyssa Thorne's God Touched. She's a girl after my own heart. If you haven't read Alyssa Thorne's like entire Fae universe, actually, it's one that you absolutely should get into, especially if you're missing the world of Fae, as we are all hungover after, you know, Crescent City 2, then definitely go dig into all of that from Alyssa. This is from the first spin-off series from her Fae universe, the Ironwood Sisters. This one, like Imogen, God Touched, again, another chef's kiss. She's absolutely my favorite character. I have a lot of favorite characters because like all of, like, you could say that with all of these favorite ones, like I have favorite characters in Heavenly Bodies and Rise of Firebird. Like I've got favorite characters throughout, but if I'm just saying like distinctly of books that I have not mentioned yet, like favorite characters of 2022, come on, Imogen all day. And then I think like books that I'm really excited to read next, I have a lot on my TBR. I'm really looking forward to finishing The Discovery of Witches because I gave the first book 5 stars. I talked about this too in my like last reading wrap up. Like I have not had time to get to the second or the third, but I'm obsessed. Like I loved the first one, but it has still taken me months to get to the second for a million reasons. So I think that is honestly just like super high on my list right now. I also am gonna dig into some Anne Rice that I haven't read. Doing a little bit of research, little fun stuff there. I'm not gonna say about what, but I'm super excited to get into, you know, the OG, the queen, the reason that all of us are probably here today talking about the shit that we're talking about. Super stoked to get into some Anne Rice. So that's kind of my wrap up for this first half of 2022. Let me know your favorite books of this first half in the comments. Tell me what your surprise reads were, who your favorite characters are, all that good stuff. I cannot wait. I'm always looking to add more things to my ever-growing TBR, and I will talk to you guys soon. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.